The Judicial Commission of Inquiry into allegations of state capture continues hearing evidence of interference within police watchdog, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate. Today, IPID's investigations head, Matthew Sesoko, told the Commission that interference arose only when senior police officers were investigated. For more on the story, I'm now joined in studio by our reporter, Manqoba Mchunu. Very good evening to you, Manqoba. Lots of testimony today around allegations of interference with investigations. Tell us more.
Well, we heard lots of testimony. Of course, we have heard it before from the likes of Kolisi Ngasana, who's the former NDPP, as well as Robert McBride, who's also the former head of IPID. Similar allegations that we're hearing again from Sesoko with regards to some of the interference, especially with high-profile cases that they were dealing with, or the cases that obviously involved politicians, cases that obviously involved senior-ranking police officials, including the commissioners at the time. So he says that, with regards to the issue of, the renditions of Zimbabweans, there was certainly some sort of interference from the minister's office who had asked for the report. But beyond that, we are hearing of how, for example, the minister had also made a ruling to suspend General Anwar Dramat based on that, in that report by IPID, despite IPID having found that, there was no evidence suggesting that he should be prosecuted for the crime. So he says that, at the time, it seems as if those who were keen on investigating certain charges or investigating certain cases, high-profile cases, were somehow vilified. And of course, he says this was constant all the time. We've heard the same testimony from the likes of Robert McBride on how some of those officers were vilified. And he says that, in the end, they wanted to find some dirt on Anwar Dramat, despite the fact that the investigation showed that there was no evidence. Let's take a listen.
After Mr. Kuba received some evidence that seemed to suggest some wrongdoing against General Dramat, it will immediately be leaked to the media. So it was clear that there was an orchestrated effort to put General Dramat in a bad light.
Yes.
I would want to venture to say, Chair, that had our report found wrongdoing, or if we had succumbed and manipulated the evidence and the facts and made a conclusion that General Dramat must be charged for any wrongdoing, we wouldn't have found ourselves in the situation that we found ourselves.
Manqoba, we saw last week at the inquiry that policing and perhaps the problems when it came to the police force were on the spotlight, with Kobus Rulofse talking about how some people were vilified. Did we have any kind of testimony continuing on that thread today?
Well, we're certainly seeing some sort of a threat here with regards to how those high-profile investigations were treated, especially those investigations against police or people linked to certain politicians. All of those investigations were ultimately frustrated or blocked by senior police management. And in some instances, those who were investigating those charges, they were trumped-up charges that were made against them. So you'll find this law enforcement agency basically looking into the other one. Basically, they were opening charges against each other. And in the end, the NPA also being roped in as the one that frustrates the investigation in terms of going to court, the prosecutions. So this is what Rulofse kind of painted last week. And of course, we heard as well from Sesoko how the NPA had done all it could to basically frustrate those cases, and it would come up with a decision to say we're not going to prosecute this matter without giving substantive reasons as to why that was not done. But he says that all of those that are investigating these cases, these high-profile cases, all of them were vilified. All of them faced some sort of, persecution from within the force. He says himself, too, he has been a victim of that. Let's take a listen.
I've been subjected to investigation, and, people in the police tell me that they want you. They want to get something on you. I talked to my banker the other time. My banker says, "What have you done? The police are looking for your financial information. What have you done?" So that's the kind of situation we find ourselves in. In my view, it's a pushback because we dared to investigate those that are not supposed to be investigated. It's continuous pushback.
And this is happening even in 2019.
Even now, as I've indicated, in my view, I believe that the Office of the Public Protector has been weaponized against us.
Manqoba, very concerning testimony coming out there. There's also a sense that there's concern from the chair of the commission from last week already about classification of certain police documents and ongoing investigations.
Of course, we did hear last week that, you know, for somebody like Rule of Service who's been investigating the looting of the slush fund, the Secret Service slush fund, it's been 8 years of a struggle from police commissioner to the next. He still hasn't gotten access to some of those critical documents that are needed for this investigation. And of course, he also alluded to the fact that IPID had also investigated this matter, and they too had battled all along. So Sesoko saying that, you know, up until now, it's been difficult. And of course, the chair is concerned because he says, you know, he just doesn't understand how it happens. And also what is concerning to him is why are high-ranking officials not prosecuted? Why is it only low-ranking officials that are prosecuted?
Manqoba Mchunu, thanks so much for your time on The Full View tonight. Our reporter following that story for us.